Getting into chapter 255 of Jujutsu Kaisen, now part 27 of the Shinjuku Showdown, with no foreseeable end in sight. And it starts off on a roof with Miguel having saved Ui from Sukuna's attack, and up on the roof with him is apparently LaRue, who has also grabbed Kusakabe's body using his curse technique. And if you have forgotten, LaRue was originally part of Geto's group before it split up in Shibuya, but he did eventually ally himself with Yuki in the end, so it does kind of make sense why he's here, and we do get a flashback in a bit that clarifies that. But at this point, Gege's just throwing characters at the wall and seeing what sticks. But before we get into the rest of the chapter, if you're enjoying this video, please like and subscribe, it really helps my small channel grow. Also, I've made a Patreon and it's in the description below, support me if you'd like. Now, in that flashback, we see Miguel in his tropical greenhouse saying no to fighting an opponent that is stronger than Gojo Satoru, and it's revealed that the people who asked him are in fact Yuta and LaRue as well. LaRue says that Sukuna is bound to get tired, so Miguel can help finish him off, but he mocks that idea saying it's just like a video game. And Yuta then jumps in and says something completely out of pocket, that they expect Tengen's merger with the people of Japan to spread outside the country. And is this implying that Yuta is throwing in the towel, or at least revealing that everyone expects that they'll lose and the merger will end up happening? These are very important questions, Yuta. But Miguel still scoffs that idea, saying fighting Godzilla is better than Sukuna. He even jokingly asks why Japanese people think cheerful black guys can solve anything, and denies the request while the other two banter with him. Miguel then states that Gojo should just come and ask him himself, and Yuta still begs him to come. LaRue then suggests talking to Miguel alone, and they sit down, pausing for a moment. Miguel then asks LaRue what he would do, but he just responds saying he wanted Geto to be king. Miguel continues and reveals that his actions were overlooked due to him looking after Yuta. They then reminisce over Geto, and Miguel asks if LaRue is suggesting getting payback, but he denies this, saying that they should all mourn Geto together by fighting and praying for his soul. Miguel then pauses and mentions that he might have gone to hell instead. Poor Geto. He then agrees, but to one condition, that they'll join the fight after Gojo and Yuta, since he wants to avoid fighting in Odo Main, and even includes LaRue in his plan before the scene switches back to the showdown with Sukuna. They both look down at Sukuna, and Miguel mentions Gojo left them a souvenir of Sukuna not being able to use his domain. But LaRue then says it's not a souvenir, it's a parting gift, which is most definitely Gege dropping hints that it's Gojo, he's not coming back. LaRue also states that Sukuna's RCT is weakened and his lower arms are incapacitated. But not only that, his heart hasn't fully healed as well, which makes Miguel and LaRue feel almost bad in stealing the glory. Sukuna suddenly jumps into action himself this time and destroys the building that they were standing on. They all drop to an underground shopping area below, and Sukuna is already rushing towards them. LaRue uses his technique, grabbing Sukuna and slamming him into the side of a building, but this isn't enough as LaRue is suddenly sliced up while Miguel and Sukuna rush in to attack each other. Sukuna lets off a barrage of dismantles, which Miguel just breakdances over, dodging all of them, and I don't know if Gege is stupid or if he's a genius. Sukuna then kicks a chunk of debris from the floor towards LaRue, to which he uses his technique to grab himself out of the way. LaRue's technique is then explained as being Heart Catch, and can create a virtual hand to grab onto any target. The hand can be restored as many times as need be, but 1/10 of the damage the hand takes will be returned to the main body every time. However, Sukuna calls it a mid technique and instead compliments Miguel's one, which is called Prayer Song, where the beat he keeps up with his body drives away curses and strengthens his physical abilities. The scene then switches to Gojo in Africa with Miguel and Yuta, while he talks more about Miguel's technique, saying it's mostly a buff to himself and a debuff to his opponent. Miguel asks how he knows his technique, and Gojo responds saying that seeing it with his 6 eyes helped him understand it. But then Gojo continues to run his mouth and compliments his different physique, which lends him to naturally have curse energy reinforcement, and thankfully Miguel puts him in his place, saying that's a black stereotype and he's not special because he's black, he's just him. So, Gojo confirmed racist? Let me know in the comments. But thankfully Gojo does apologize and Miguel forgives him. But I do have to say that Gege is kind of smart for this, because a lot of Japanese people actually think this way, and Miguel putting all-powerful Gojo in his place on this matter is quite an intuitive way to fight back against harmful stereotypes, even if they come from a place not of discrimination. So I applaud Gege for even including something like this. Yuta then asks if Miguel would actually be a threat to Gojo, and he responds, it's hard to say. But if he and Miguel were in a duel just with cursed energy reinforcement, then he could beat linear movement, but would probably lose to point movement. And the difference between linear and point movement is that linear is a straight path from A to B, while point movement is actually the fastest path and doesn't have to be straight. The flashback then ends and Sukuna seemingly surprised as Miguel grabs his wrist, smoothly passes through and punches Sukuna directly in the chest. Miguel then goes for an elbow to the neck and Sukuna is knocked back, but notices a shadow behind him. And it's Choso who lets off a piercing blood, but Sukuna just manages to dodge it. Sukuna quickly lets off a dismantle that hits Choso, but while this is happening, Yuji crashes through the ceiling, hitting Sukuna directly and seemingly buckling his knees. However, Sukuna just mocks Yuji again. The narrator then pops up stating that the dismantle slash that cuts the world requires the Enma palm sign, just like when activating his domain. However, before he changed to his forearm form, when he was almost killed by Gojo, he imposed more binding vows on the dismantle in order to cut Gojo. Now he must satisfy its conditions with the palm sign and the chant while directing it with hand signs. But before Sukuna can do anything, his upper left hand is completely sliced off, and Sukuna looks down in surprise as Maki appears, having survived the Black Flash. Yuji then notes that this is it. Sukuna can't complete the palm sign and his RCT still isn't functioning. They all work together so hard and they can win this. Some very hopeful words because, well, this is Jujutsu Kaisen, nothing goes the way you want it to. And with that, black sparks flare up as Sukuna lands a heavy black flash on LaRue. And the narrator just had to remind us that Gojo regained his RCT after he hit 2 black flashes, and Sukuna just did that. But before we can find out any more, the chapter ends there with an unbelievable cliffhanger. Yep, they're all dead. There's no way they can do this. How are they going to beat Sukuna? But that's beside the point. It's to be expected now from every chapter. What I really want to know is how Maki healed. I know Heavenly Restriction can allow you to heal quite severe wounds, but nothing on the scale Reverse Curse technique can do, and I didn't see Yuta or Shoko being able to help her at that point. There are a lot of unknowns from the heroes and villains alike, and it's taking way too long to reveal them, but we're just going to have to wait until the next chapter. It's now coming to the end of the video, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I'm so happy you stopped by. My channel is steadily growing, and I'm amazed at the support I'm getting. And I also have a Patreon now, so feel free to support me however you like. The link will be in the description, and I will shout out names at the end of each video. Thank you again, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.